Well, our top story tonight, India suffering a spectacular power blackout, the second time in 2 days. This time though, it was much bigger, with as many as 19 states that were hit, with 3 power grids collapsing, more than 640 million people affected, hundreds of trains stopped midway, traffic lights haven't been working in many places. All in all, it has been all-round chaos. Well, my colleague Siddharth Pandey now has the latest for us. Siddharth, what's the latest? Has the power come back in some areas? When do we expect it to be fully restored?
Well, if it was a manic Monday yesterday, it's been completely chaos today, as you said, and power has still not come back everywhere. In fact, the government is saying that probably in a couple of hours, hopefully power will be restored just about everywhere. While the power, of course, returned in the northeast right at the beginning, it's come back in the eastern parts of the country to a large extent, but still the north of the country, still a lot of areas remain in the dark right now. And the reason for that is, of course, what the government and the officials tell us. It's going to take time to literally bring back all the power stations once again online, so they can start performing at their peak capacity and supply the power to everybody, you know, or to all the residents. But clearly that's taking a lot of time. We saw how long it took yesterday. They're saying hopefully in a couple of hours everyone should get power, but of course it's just a question of waiting and seeing just how long that actually takes now.
And Siddharth, what about, you know, essential services, the metro, which again stopped in Delhi today, trains in many parts of the country, more than 300 trains today again were affected. What about essential services, traffic lights? Are those essential services, basic services at least working?
Well, you got some traffic lights working. So if you live in the central part of Delhi, the VIP part of Delhi, that area got electricity right away or very soon. But if you live in the outer fringes of Delhi, you still have traffic cops actually manning those traffic intersections. It's been a day with lots of rain, so there's been that chaos as well. Not just that, train services right now, metro services, it's not really up to full capacity. They're running fewer trains until they get the full power load. Throughout the day, we've actually had people sending in their pictures, you know, where actual metro coaches just stopped in the middle of their tracks. People actually then opened up those metro coaches, had to walk to the nearest metro station. So it's been pretty much of a harried Tuesday as well for many citizens. Essential services were hit at hospitals as well, while of course they had emergency backup power, but they're saying that of course they have curtailed their power usage. So even in courts where I actually went to, lot of lawyers' chambers did not have electricity. It's been pretty uncomfortable, and people of course saying that they really want this to now be behind them. The fact that it's actually happened once again within a span of just 24 hours got many people worried. They're just hoping that it returns back to normal and does not really happen again tomorrow.
All right, Siddharth Pandey, thanks very much for joining us there with that update. That brings us to our first big debate tonight. Are we a powerless superpower? Are India's superpower dreams a joke? The whole world has been watching this story unfold over the last 2 days in India. Joining us on the program tonight, we have India's former Power Minister, Mr. Suresh Prabhu. Also joining us, the Secretary General of FICCI, Rajiv Kumar, the CEO of BSES Rajdhani Power Limited, Gopal Saxena. Professor A.G. Iyer joins us from Mumbai tonight, the President of the Renewable Energy Promotion Association. Mr. Saxena, let me ask you first, because you're looking at power, particularly in the national capital. What is the situation right now in Delhi?
As far as Delhi is concerned, I think we've got about 90% power. All essential services were restored very early on with the help of the State Load Dispatch Center and a coordinated effort from all the DISCOMs. So today, at this point of time, we have about 90% power to all of Delhi. 90%
power.
Yes.
And when do you expect things to be all right? I mean, like they normally are?
Well, we are waiting the full load of Dadri to come in, and that should enable 100%.
But the essential services like traffic lights, the metro, all of that is okay now.
All of that. Sure.
Is there's a big fear though that this could happen again? How do you explain this? I mean, is there a real possibility that this could happen again in a few days, tomorrow, day after?
Well, there was no possibility 10 years back.
What is the power situation as far as you know in the other affected states right now?
Well, Delhi is, as I said, about 90% up. But I do believe that in Uttar Pradesh, in Haryana and Rajasthan, there are still various parts which are without power. And I guess that it will be another couple of hours
before things are restored.
Before things are restored.
Okay, that's important information there from Mr. Saxena of BSES. Let me go to Renuka Chaudhary, the Congress Party spokesperson first, before I go to Mr. Suresh Prabhu. Renuka Chaudhary, the big political development that has taken place simultaneously today has been the appointment of Mr. Sushil Kumar Shinde as the country's Home Minister. And honestly, a lot of people are just perplexed. That here is the erstwhile Power Minister who has presided over India's biggest blackout ever for 2 days, who has got a big promotion today to the Home Ministry. Can you explain that to us?
Nidhi, I don't think you should see it as a promotion. It's an additional responsibility for him. Being a Home Minister is really not a picnic. And so for him to take over and run a show like that, and I don't think it was a deliberate thing to make sure that the country is plunged into darkness. I've just about had electricity restored at my place, and this is supposed to be a VIP area. We didn't have the power. I'm glad, because we want to be able to understand what the situation is. So I don't think you should see it as a promotion or a reward or anything like that.
But it is
it's
a promotion.
Lateral shift from one responsibility to another responsibility.
The Home Minister is one of the most senior cabinet ministers. He's, he gets, it is a promotion. It's clearly what kind of message is the government sending here? And then at the same time, you don't even have a full-time Power Minister right now, Renuka Chaudhary. You have Mr. Moily with additional charge. Does the Prime Minister not think it's important enough to have a full-time Power Minister at this time in this country?
No, Nidhi. I think we're all overreacting to this. Mr. Moily is a perfectly competent Union Minister. He has had many experiences in different portfolios, and he's always been a very competent man. So I think it's rather disparaging that we put him down like this at this moment. And Mr. Shinde did what he could. And a very good job at that all over the country for all these years, because we've had one breakdown. It doesn't mean it's the end of the road for him. That's not a fair thing.
All right, let me ask
And the signal that we're sending is that you have a perfectly competent man, Mr. Sushil Kumar Shinde. No one can really question his credentials. I think he's a very competent minister.
I guess it's the timing. It is the timing. And Mr. Suresh Prabhu, let me ask you that political question first. Were you surprised? I know that Mr. Shinde's name as the new Home Minister of the country has been doing the rounds for months now, but did you just think that the timing with this blackout has been a bit off?
Hardly.
See, basically, one is it is an internal matter whether it is a Prime Minister's prerogative to decide the portfolios of individual minister. So that's besides. But as a government, I think it owes a responsibility, it has an obligation to make sure that a system performs. So whether it's a power system, whether it's a law and order system, whether it's a the delivery system of food grains or other stuff. So I think, if you really look at it generally, the situation seems to be really pathetic in terms of people getting really frustrated over the lack of sustenance on the part of the government to actually deliver things on time, in place, in quality. So I think that's something we really needs to be looked at. So the failure of the grid is a symptomic issue that points out to a failure generally of policy, its implementation, of the governance, of the discipline that the states need to follow. So I think, really speaking, rather than taking up one issue, can we not today we'll be happy that tomorrow the grid is not going to fail, but that doesn't mean that we are really good. The power situation in India calls for a serious introspection. We really need to look at it very clearly, seriously, and I'm not even making a political statement, because by making a political statement by blaming A against B, if we can solve the problem, might as well do that. But that doesn't solve the problem. So why not actually, that's why I've been saying for last, just not because of grid failure, I've been saying this for last several weeks, that power situation is so grim, there is no fuel, the finance is a problem, the power equipments are not delivered on time. In fact, there is a BHEL is saying they cannot deliver equipments on time because there is no enough power available at their plant in Trichy.
Okay.
Can you imagine that the power equipment producer is not able to produce power because of power?
I want to talk about those points in more detail. Let me get Professor Iyer in here. Professor Iyer, we're just trying to understand why this has happened and why this has happened 2 days in a row. The government has at the center blamed states like Punjab and Haryana for overdrawing. These states like Punjab and UP have reacted very sharply today, denying that they've overdrawn. What has happened here?
So before I comment, I must make a comment here, let it be political or apolitical. Mr. Shinde was the worst performing power minister of India, ever. And this I must go online and tell you that he was the worst performing power minister, and rightly said this is a symptom of a complete non-performance. In fact, in the 11th plan, we have barely added capacity. And I also tell you the main reason for the failure is that we do not have a national grid today. Whatever we are talking of a national grid is in the air. We have never connected the southern side of the country to the rest of it. We have a north, east and western connection, and south is not connected. And this is a major problem. And the second most important thing is non-adoption of smart grid. Countries like US, Germany, France and all the superpower economies of the world are connected across a smart grid system. India is still trying pilots in smart grid and we are not implementing smart grids. And for this we must give a real question mark on the company called Power Grid Corporation of India. And Mr. R.N. Naik must answer here to the country why he is not adopting a proper smart grid strategy in this country.
But isn't it something that cuts across political lines? There are previous governments who are non-Congress governments as well, Professor Iyer, who've had the same, issues of dealing with power infrastructure, subsidies to farmers, power theft, corruption. These are issues that cut across parties, don't they?
I think, if you look at it this way, I must tell you that my good colleague Suresh Prabhu was the best power minister that we ever had. Whether it's a Congress or BJP, I'm not bothered. But let us look at individuals who did justice to that sector. But I must tell you that today this party does not think that the power ministry is an important ministry. And here is a non-performing minister. He's involved in other scams. He's involved in the worst kind of performance this country can ever have. And I will never accept Mr. Shinde as a good minister. That was the worst decision to give him a second term in this country. And he has destroyed the power sector.
Let me get Mr. Rajiv Kumar's first reaction. Mr. Kumar, you can choose to comment on the politics of this, but in the last 2 days, as we see this also playing out internationally in the headlines, what does this tell the world about India's superpower dreams? This has also got a serious effect on the economy as well.
Well, we have to agree that this is an accident. Yesterday was an accident, and today also I think is not something which has been either premeditated or which we foresaw coming. But at the same time, I think we should accept the fact that such accidents happen because there are some very strong underlying deficiencies in the system, and they should be treated as symptomatic of those deficiencies. And I think it's quite right to say that we have all been anticipating such a crisis, because there has been a growing demand-supply gap in the power sector in the country. States after states have been having power shortages. There have been power cuts. Industries have been told to stop production once a week. For example, in Pune, you've got a similar situation in Andhra, where continuous process industries are not getting the power that they require. It's very costly for them to restart it. So you see, what I'm trying to say is that, Lenin said Soviets plus electricity is equal to development and and growth. And electricity is like the vital blood of the economy. So I can't see why we cannot give it enough attention and achieve the planned target that we have.
But isn't there,
and
Mr.
why
Kumar,
we can't invest enough?
Mr. Kumar,
in
isn't
this
there a
sector?
complete lack of political will in this sector? And it's for many reasons. One, you don't even have a full-time power minister when the reshuffle takes place today, on a day where you've seen 2 days of this horrendous blackout taking place. So obviously you don't think it's important enough to have a full-time power minister. Over the years, you've had free electricity given to farmers, you've had other issues of power theft, corruption. You only have Coal India, which is the only state-owned company that has control over the issue of the coal-fired plants. So at the end of the day, is there really a political will? And even though some states have increased power tariffs, there's a lot of wariness about increasing tariffs substantially. I'll get to Renuka Chaudhary as well. Mr. Rajiv Kumar.
Yeah, but that Nidhi, that the state electric utilities have a total debt of 200,000 crores at the moment. The sector has pretty much been driven to financial bankruptcy because of the populist policies. And this is where I think we have come to, which is that and this is by the way true for the entire political class at the moment, So it's not a comment on any party. The entire political class is pretty much scared to take the right decisions and would rather go for competitive populism, so that for which, as a result of which, the farmers will not pay for power, the domestic consumers will be subsidized, there will not be enough investment in the power sector, and the sector is just going from bad to worse. So what we in the industry have been saying is that, look, this is a sector which is like a basic fundamental sector for the growth of the economy. So let's please put this right and let's do the reforms. After 2003, there have been no more reforms in this sector. And this is one sector we've actually regressed. I was in the government in 1994 with Dr. Manmohan Singh as my finance minister. We had got the chief ministers of all the states to agree for 50 paise minimum tariff, power tariff across all categories. We have regressed on that. And this is the price that we are paying today for this populism that has come.
Let me take that to the politicians.
I think that is what we need to tackle.
Okay, Renuka Chaudhary first and then Mr. Prabhu. Renuka Chaudhary, you heard some pretty strong words from Mr. Rajiv Kumar there. Competitive populism, we have regressed in this sector and it has been driven to financial bankruptcy, is what he said.
Nidhi, I'll tell you one thing. Number one, we are comparing ourselves to Singapore and Malaysia and all, which just amazes me, because what is the population of those countries? I'm amazed that, Professor Iyer was talking so vehemently.
That's not the point.
And these are our professors. No one in this panel has addressed the fundamental problem of our population. Now, if we are talking about populist measures, yes, everyone is guilty up to a certain extent that we take populist measures at times. But the fact of the matter is, today, despite this great failure, there has been a problem in all the northern states. We haven't seen what we see in New York. So much for advanced economies and great elaborate setup systems. You don't see it happening across the United States, where there's a power failure, there's looting and shops are broken in and there's all sorts of hostility on the streets. I'm rather proud that we are Indians and we stand by. This is one incident that has happened in so many years. Yes, we must put systems into place, we must streamline, we must look at transmission losses, we must see how much captive power we have in each of our states, put everyone onto that grid. You have to be able to set up the other grid, which the gentleman will. No one's denying all of that.
Okay, Professor Iyer, I'll just come to you. I want to take this to Mr. Prabhu.
Point fingers.
But it is important to have accountability, because Mr. Prabhu, isn't this what has happened in the last 2 days, and it's still happening, a wake-up call? And this is something that, as Mr. Rajiv Kumar said, all governments have been guilty of, competitive populism, and that is what has destroyed this country's power sector. Mr. Prabhu.
Yeah, let me just remind my friends who are in the studio as well as others that, in 94, as he said, they made a resolution that all the states must charge at least 50 paise. From 94 to 2002, it never happened. When I was the power minister, the first time in India's history after several years, we made sure that all the states were started charging for agriculture. So it's one thing to make a resolution. It is like a directive principle in our constitution that you make all laudable and all lofty ideas, but never put them into reality. The first time we convinced all the states in India, Tamil Nadu and Punjab included, to stop charging for free electricity. When was this reversed? In 2004, when Mr. Y.S.R. Reddy became the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, his first order as the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh was, in public gathering, he signed a file giving free power. So many state Chief Ministers then said, if one state is now charging, why we should not charge it? So in fact, we have stopped it for the first time in so many years. We lost that opportunity. I remember telling the UPA leaders that please stop one state from doing it, because with great difficulty we achieved it. Number two, the grid discipline that we talked about in 2002, when there was the grid failure, when the power grid has taken over. We made a grid discipline. It survived for more than a decade. We made Electricity Act 2003, which made sure that there is not going to be a subsidy unless the state governments provide for it. We never said don't give free power, but you also must make sure that a subsidy is given from the state coffers. We made the law. We had a comprehensive plan for integrated power sector development. we launched a first ever program for revamping the distribution reforms were never there in India's history. We gave 40,000 crores under APDP, APRDP subsequently to make sure that the entire
So you're
distribution
saying it
system
went
is
all
revamped.
downhill after
Quality of power is
2004.
addressed. So what I'm just trying to tell you, it is not that we wanted to make it. In fact, I had gone to all the political leaders of India, asking them to sign a statement saying that power sector issues will be above politics. In fact, I had
But they're
made
not.
a request.
But they're not.
See, no, I'm just one point, just one point. I made a request to the Chief Election Commissioner then that why don't you ask all the political parties to sign this statement which I had prepared. I had prepared a minimum statement which all political parties will make an undertaking that power sector, these common issues that really confront the power sector will be above politics. So we never made an effort to follow it up subsequent to that. So I'm just trying to remind my friends that it is not that all you can always tar everybody with the same brush, but you must also try to understand that there was a serious effort made which put and where the investment
Okay,
come in.
okay.
Why do you think in the last 5 years we have been able to add so much of capacity?
Okay.
I
One
stand
of it is
corrected,
from
Mr.
private
Prabhu.
sector
Okay.
Only because of electricity.
I stand corrected, Mr. Prabhu.
Okay, Professor Iyer, you wanted to make a point before I come to Mr. Saxena.
See, I want to make a point. I had given a solution. I said we don't have any connectivity between the southern grid and the north, east, west. That's the statement I made. And this needs a completely advanced system of integration called the smart grid. And you can spend roughly between 1 crore to 2 crore per megawatt to get a smart grid system implemented in this country, which can retrieve the grid without any manual interface. Now, tomorrow you're going to go and sack those guys in the Northern Load Dispatch Center. He's not the culprit. The chief culprit will be only we have to catch hold of the chairman of the Power Grid Corporation of India Limited. If that man sitting at the Northern Load Dispatch Center is to, then I think the power sector heads must be sacked first.
Okay, Mr.
So the
Saxena.
solution is you implement modern technology in this country. Don't keep it manual.
Okay.
And I want to go back to Ms. Renuka Chaudhary. You know, she says she cannot implement. Look at Gujarat. Gujarat is the only state which is smart grid ready, which is gas
Who
ready.
said we
which
cannot
is
implement
infrastructure
with
ready on
Professor
power.
Iyer?
And then the other state
I
that wants
think
to come
you
up
got
probably
very
is Tamil Nadu.
confused.
Show me a state in the Congress dominant states which are coming up with a proper power system.
Okay,
And they are failing everywhere.
Mr. Iyer, Professor Iyer, this may be your personal opinion. It's all right.
This
You're
is not
free
my
to voice
personal
your
opinion. This is not my personal opinion. This you must face, and you cannot come and bluff in the channel every day. We are watching you for such a long time now.
okay, Professor Iyer, just one moment. Mr. Saxena wants to make a point. Mr. Kumar, I'll come
No,
to you.
I
after
think
that.
I think I want to move away from politics to state
Because
that
it is so much to do
Yeah,
with
I know, I
politics.
This
know,
is
I
not a
know.
question
There was
of
a
politics.
political will.
It is
You
a
could have
question of
reformed
energy
the power
security of
sector.
the country. It is a question
Prakash.
of energy security of the country. and
Professor
not
Iyer,
politics.
one second,
Prakash,
Please
Professor
come
Iyer.
neutral.
Prakash, I think let us first accept
This is not fair.
if we are looking at energy security in India, we are looking at a national grid as a lifeline to take power from various parts of the country to the consuming centers. We are looking at a growth in peak load from 70,000 megawatts that existed in 2002 to a peak load of about 125,000 today, which means a growth of 80%. And we are looking at
No,
centers such
this
as
is a
Delhi.
complete fallacy. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
China has got 9 lakh
We are
megawatts.
also
You don't.
looking-
Let us not try to
Professor
mislead
Iyer,
this
you should
country.
also
This country
see
cannot be
what
misled
happens
like
when you
this
set
by
up-
you guys in Delhi.
Okay, Professor Iyer, let him finish making his point.
So-
I'll come back
so-
to you.
No, this
So-
is complete nonsense.
Well,
This is complete nonsense.
I don't
the
know.
neighboring country has
Well,
9
I
lakh
think this
megawatts
is
and we are
very
discussing
unprofessor-like
80%
behavior.
growth
Professor Iyer,
rate.
please.
This man must stop
Professor
it.
Iyer, let him finish making his point. I will
No,
come back
there is
to
no
you.
question of him finishing.
No,
What
no,
is he
no.
talking? 2 lakh megawatt, 2 lakh megawatt
He
versus
has
the
a right
neighboring
to put
country
his
having
point
9 lakh megawatts.
He has a right
Let
to
us
put his
talk the
point of view
sense
across.
now.
Professor
Good
Iyer,
heavens,
please
is
calm
this
down.
what
This is not a point
professors
of
are
view.
about
This is like
nowadays?
plain incompetence.
Please, I'm going to have to kill the audio then. I'm sorry to have to do that. Yes, Mr. Saxena.
Yeah.
No, madam, this is not fair.
Mr. Saxena.
Well, notwithstanding whatever Professor Iyer is saying, the fact remains that today the lifeline for energy security is the national grid. And unless we accept this as a reality and work towards making the grid more and more technically as well as commercially sound, we are going to run into these kind of problems in the times to come.
Okay, so I don't think there's anything controversial in what he said there, Professor Iyer. Last word to you, Mr. Rajiv Kumar. What is the message that a 2-day blackout like this, that is so massive, sends out to investors at a time when the investment climate in India is already so negative and bleak?
Clearly, Nidhi, that this just doesn't make matters any better. because investors are now going to rethink about what the power situation in India is. But I must add that my good friend Mr. Suresh Prabhu, I give him all the credit for the 2003 reforms and all that he said. But we must remember that in the Punjab today, we do have a ruling party, ruling government, which is not from the UPA, and they are persisting in this wrong set of policies, while Gujarat has done just the opposite, and they have charged their farmers, and they've got much better electricity supply system. And finally, I think I just want to add that unless we invest huge amounts and expand our capacities to 400, 500,000 megawatts, India should not, India cannot aspire to be an economic superpower, which is what our right is to be. And the industry, on the industrial side, I think we are very worried, because this is just an accident. This might be a once-off event, but there's a lot of power outages already across the country, and in many places industry is suffering already.
Vis-a-vis industry.
No, I think there's a larger debate here about what it says about India.
Whatever the industry uses, it pays twice as much as anybody else in this country. So it is not a matter of how much it uses.
You also take 100 times as much advantage of the system which the farmer has no access to.
You also have our own captive power
Farmers are
plants,
also getting free power.
and we add to the grid.
Yeah, but they're also feeding the whole nation. What industry will they do with it? Their workers
and I think
are
this
not
is the
fed.
attitude.
Yes, Mr. Kumar, finish your sentence.
This is, I'm afraid, I'm very sorry to say, but this is the attitude which will get us nowhere. Rather than learn the lesson from today and focus the attention on power sector reform,
don't blame the
and
farmers.
carry on and get the generation and the transmission to be modernized. If we just start pointing fingers and ask questions which are pretty much irrelevant, I don't think we'll get anywhere at all.
I have to leave it at that for today. I have to leave it at
that.
I have to leave it at that for now. I think this is something that actually warrants a much larger debate on what the state is of India's power sector and what is happening with what we have available right now. Thank you to all of you for joining us tonight. As we were saying, the electricity supply is still pretty patchy in many of the states. It has been restored in some areas, but it is still not fully restored. We take a break now. Still ahead, we look at whether India's political parties are undemocratic in a week that has seen two senior politicians in the dock over Narendra Modi.